Most night shift reports just vanish into thin air. Seriously, they often get locked away in internal security folders, protected by passwords and protocols that only a select few can crack. Some get rewritten by supervisors who want to deal with questions from corporate or law enforcement, while others are deleted before anyone even has a chance to look at them, totally scrubbed from the servers. But every now and then, a few slip through the cracks, like that hallway alarm that goes off with no one around, or the figure caught on one camera but completely absent on the one just 5 feet away. And then there are those time stomps on incident logs that just don't sync up with the system clock. Workers hear things they can't explain, see things that don't match the official records, and sometimes the recovered footage is way scarier than the whispered stories. These 3 cases, they were never officially solved, but every detail has been verified, pulled straight from security notes, direct witness accounts, and archived footage. Nothing here has been changed or exaggerated. What you're about to hear is exactly what was recorded by the system and the people who were actually there. These are the accounts of those who started their shift alone and didn't stay that way. The call came in at 11:02 p.m. A nurse, working the overnight shift, started her rounds on the 3rd floor. The hospital felt eerily quiet even for that late hour. The entire east wing was closed for renovations, power cut, walls stripped, doorways sealed with plastic sheeting. But then, motion lights started flickering on deep inside that sealed-off section. She watched from the nurse's station as they lit up, one corridor at a time, getting closer. She checked the digital logs. No maintenance was scheduled. No one should be in there. Then, a door slammed somewhere deep in the closed wing, a heavy sound that echoed down the hall. Faint footsteps followed, slow and deliberate, echoing on the tiled floor. She radioed security, reporting unauthorized movement in the east wing. Patrol Officer S' voice came back clear. He was on the 1st floor and said everything was all clear. Walking to the taped-off entrance of the wing, her footsteps felt way too loud. The temperature dropped sharply as she got closer to the plastic barrier. She could see her breath fogging up in the chilled air. That's when she heard it, a faint, persistent ringing bell. A nurse call button was flashing from an empty room just inside the construction zone, but that room, it had no bed, no patient, no equipment. It's just bare walls and exposed wiring. She pushed aside the plastic sheet and stepped inside. The floorboards creaked softly under her weight. Suddenly, the patient monitor, which had been disconnected and left in a corner, turned on by itself. For a split second, a perfect, steady heartbeat line appeared on the screen. Then it flatlined, letting out a long tone before the screen went dark. Heart racing, she backed out of the room. Security arrived a few minutes later, looking confused and annoyed. They confirmed the main power supply to that entire section had been disconnected for over a week. They pulled the CCTV footage from the camera at the end of the hall. For 3 frames, a tall, blurred shape appeared behind the nurse. It stood perfectly still, its form indistinct and wavering. When she turned to leave the room in the video, the shape was gone. The next day, a hospital technician reviewed the system logs. The motion sensors in that hallway were marked as inactive in the system. They had been manually disabled by the construction crew, yet something triggered them, and the system recorded a fault code. The nurse refused to return to that wing, asking for an immediate transfer. Supervisors reviewed the security footage that morning, frame by frame. The blurred figure from the night before was now completely missing from the recording. Only a single corrupted frame remained where it had been a glitchy, pixelated outline with no features, no depth, no face. The official incident report chalked it all up to equipment malfunctions and power surges. But the nurse insisted the air felt different that night, colder, heavier, like someone was walking right beside her, just out of sight. The night guard began his shift at 10:58 p.m. in a massive warehouse of concrete and steel, stretching endlessly into the darkness. Metal racks filled with sealed crates towered over him on either side. Suddenly, a sharp metallic clang echoed from loading bay 3. He walked the perimeter and checked every bay door was locked, every chain secured. The sound repeated, louder and closer, like it was coming from the next aisle over. His radio crackled with static, but no voice came through. He glanced at his monitor. The door sensors for the loading bays flickered between open and closed. On the CCTV feed for aisle 12, a wooden crate shifted 2 inches to the left. He rewound the footage and watched it again. The crate moved again, this time even farther. He holstered his radio and headed toward aisle 12. The air grew colder the deeper he went into the warehouse. The beam from his flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows. Suddenly, a forklift alarm chirped sharply behind him. He spun around to see the forklift parked at the end of the aisle, rolling forward 3 feet on its own. Its keys were locked in the supervisor's office at the front of the building. Another crate slammed down hard in the distance, echoing off the metal roof. The overhead fluorescent lights flickered violently. The guard started moving faster, running down aisle after aisle. Every crate he checked remained sealed, undisturbed. He dashed back to the security office and checked the computer. Camera 6 showed a dark, tall silhouette standing perfectly still at the far end of the main corridor. He zoomed in, but the image glitched, dissolving into digital noise. The system's analytics software drew a box around it, labeled Unidentified Object. Blind spots began appearing across multiple camera feeds, shifting from one location to another. A loud metallic thud shook the far end of the warehouse. He tried his radio again, shouting for a response. All he got was static. The feed from camera 3 froze for 5 seconds. When the image returned, the silhouette was closer. The guard locked himself inside the small security office. The cameras began rebooting, one by one, their feeds going black. The system computer flashed a blue screen, forcing restart. He heard slow, heavy footsteps on the concrete floor just outside the office door. Something brushed against the exterior office wall, a soft, scraping sound. The lights in the office cut out, plunging him into darkness. They returned 7 seconds later. He looked at the monitors. The cameras showed nothing. The aisles were empty. Supervisors arrived in the morning to find a shaken, pale guard. They reviewed the server footage from the night. It was clean, no glitches, no moving objects except for one single orphaned frame pulled from the data cache of camera 6. It showed the silhouette, no longer at a distance, but standing directly in front of the lens, staring into it. At 1:53 a.m., a security officer patrolled an empty, multi-level parking structure. The silence was deafening, amplifying every sound across the cold concrete. The top level was completely deserted, just a field of empty white lines under pale sodium lights. Suddenly, his handheld scanner beeped, detecting an unregistered vehicle. He looked at the indicated space. It was empty. The scanner vibrated again, this time with a different alert. Unknown signal level 4. But wait, the parking structure only had 3 levels. The elevator doors at the far end of the garage slid open on their own. The shaft behind them was empty and dark. Then the emergency phone on the wall beside it began to ring, shrill and demanding. Cautiously, he picked up the receiver. All he heard was static and slow, steady breathing on the other end. The overhead lights began shutting off, one by one, plunging the west side of the structure into darkness. He heard slow footsteps climbing the ramp from the level below. His scanner flashed red, vibrating in his hand. The screen read, "Object approaching." He looked up toward the top of the ramp and saw a tall, warped shape standing at the far end. Its outline flickered like a corrupted video file and distorted. He backed away slowly, moving toward the stairwell door. The lights flickered back on for a moment. The shape was closer now. He didn't wait. Ran for the security booth on the ground level. Inside, the monitors showed all 3 levels empty. But a 4th feed had appeared in the bottom corner of the screen. Level 4 active. The feed was grainy, low resolution, almost entirely black. Something was moving inside that grainy frame, a tall, thin figure, walking slowly toward the camera. The feed glitched violently, breaking into lines of static. When it stabilized, the figure was gone. The lights in the security booth cut out for exactly 3 seconds and then turned back on. Incidents like these rarely get official explanations. Most stay buried in restricted files labeled as malfunctions or system errors. But the workers involved remember the details long after the official reports are closed. The footage, the logs, and the data never seem to tell the whole story. These accounts are some of the few that escape deletion or alteration, and to this day, they remain unresolved. If you want to dig into more recovered files, follow the Phantom Ledger. New case evidence drops every few nights. It's just a heads up, viewer discretion is always advised. Some stories should never be opened, but people open them anyway.